It is time. Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the reading vlog for the Indie Ink Awards. At least one of them. I don't know how many of these I'll make. I was accepted to be a judge for this year, and if you didn't know, the Indie Ink Awards are a series of awards for indie books that are self-published or from small presses, but unlike other indie awards that tend to focus on genres, this one focuses on both tropes and identities. So half of them will be things like Best Morally Great Character, Best Mentor Character, and the other half is called the Writing the Future We Need Awards, and these are things like representation of certain races and ethnicities, disability rep, trans and non-binary rep, different queer rep, like that kind of thing. And so the way this is going to work is I, as a judge, can judge all of the books based on the Trope Awards, and I can only judge the books on the Writing the Future We Need Awards for communities that I am a part of. So for me, that is asexual rep, bisexual rep, or biromantic rep, neurodivergence rep, because every self-eval I have taken, and I have taken several, says, yeah, bitch, and maybe disability rep. I'm on the fence, because, like, mine is comparatively so mild to other people that, like, I don't know. Like, if I read the book and I'll be like, yeah, I see it, then maybe I'll judge for the disability rep and that. But PCOS is so weird, y'all. But regardless, I do have my 2 judge copies reserved currently. You can only have 2 at a time to make sure that no one, like, hoards books without reading them, because once enough judges request a book, it gets taken off the list, and you don't want it to, like, wallow in someone's personal library for too long. But I do fully intend on reading these 2. I'm very hyped for them. But that being said, what am I going to be reading? The first book that I picked is one from an author I have read before, but I have not read this one before because that would be against the rules. But that is Celestially Yours by Al Hess. This focuses on a protagonist who signed up for this essentially revivifying, what do they call it? Resuscitating? No, I'm going to get it wrong. He died and then he came back. But while he was, like, dead, waiting to be, like, brought back into his new body, he was chilling out with the AI in this weird server afterlife thing. And then when he comes back, now he keeps seeing the AI in his, like, everyday life. And so he's like, what the fuck? And the AI is now asking things of him. And I found this was really amusing because the other book I read from Al Hess, Mazarin Blues, is also involving an AI that gets way too cozied up to the protagonist. So apparently this is just the author's vibe. But I was really intrigued by this one. I liked this author's work before. And I am really hopeful that I can come out strong. But all that being said, for all that I can tell you my thoughts on these books, I can't tell you what my score would be. There is a rubric and everything. So we are focusing as much on the writing craft as the representation, as our enjoyment. So I'm going to have to, like, keep an eye on both. I might just literally, like, write out the rubric for myself to follow and make notes on. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. But before I do that, let's talk about the other one. The other copy I have reserved is A Bone in His Teeth by Kellen Graves. I have seen this author pop up on my socials so much. So when I saw the name on the list of reserved copies for judges, I was like, yes, that one. This is all about our protagonist who is searching for his missing mother. She was very paranoid and told him that if she should ever go missing, he should go looking for her in this specific port town. He goes to the town. She's not there. He decides to hang around and become the local lighthouse keeper, and then something with sirens happens. Okay, there's probably more in the synopsis than that, but that's all I caught because that's all I needed. I am really excited to get to this author. I saw them constantly, but I was under a zero TBR challenge for years, so randomly buying books off Twitter and now Blue Sky wasn't really viable, but, like, the reviews on this one are great. Like, it's got a 4.5 on Goodreads with, like, hundreds of reviews on freaking Goodreads. So, fingers crossed that I'll like both of these. I think I'm going to start with A Bone in His Teeth, just because the sirens are calling to me. Never mind. All right, let's get to reading. Okay, so read the first 50 pages of A Bone in His Teeth, and my notes currently read the vibes and run away because I'm such a good judge, but I was not expecting the horror vibes. Really good horror vibes. So you have to follow the protagonist as he has to like get away from the town that he and his mother lived in because it was a company town where like the ruling family like kept them trapped there, forced to work for them. And once Alba gets a telegram from his mother, presumably telling him where to go, even though it's riddles because he doesn't really know exactly where he's supposed to meet her. The head dude of the family is like trying to track him down because they want to bring his mother back so they can force him to keep working, and he's like, screw you, stabs him in the leg and runs. Eventually, through plot, finds his way to the town, but discovers on the way that the lighthouse keeper job is constantly being reopened because every single wiki, the name for a lighthouse keeper, disappears within a month. They never get to the end of a month. And then as he gets on the little island with the lighthouse, he starts noticing all these creepy little things are going wrong, just little things. And there was a whole section of him doing like a lighthouse shift, which I'm not going to lie, I didn't really care about very much because all the technical terms and the inner workings of a lighthouse, my eyes started glazing over. But then you see the siren for the first time. And the way this scene is set up is so good. Because, like, I know this is a monster romance, right? I love monster romances. So tell me why, when Alba realizes that the white face with the broad shoulders looking at him up to sea starts swimming towards him, my knee-jerk reaction was, no! Ah! Like, I know that that's probably the romantic interest, and I was still like, run away! That's how good the horror vibes were. That the tension overrode what I know is very likely to happen. And I've been coming up with all these theories on what's been happening to the lighthouse keepers. I'm not going to share them just in case I'm right. I don't want to accidentally spoil it, but I still want to brag if I am right. But like, I mean, I got to go to bed now. After that, oh my God, so good. Okay. I will check in with you when I have read a little bit more on another day. Hello, we are 50 pages farther in. It is another day, and I am continuing to love the horror vibes, the creepy vibes, because the second time our protagonist comes face to face with the mysterious siren dude from before, he is alone in a dinky little rowboat with a corpse in a darkened ocean. So good. Ocean horror is its own kind of creepiness because, you know, we functionally can't survive underwater. So there's this added element of danger to everything, and the added element of like, what's in the waves underneath me. I love it. I love it so much. The only thing I'm nervous about with where I'm at is that they're going to be seeing a whole lot more of each other in a less tense setting. And I'm a little bit afraid that we're going to lose some of the edge, that delicious, delicious horror edge that this story has had so far. Now, that being said, there's still a lot of mysteries. We still got to figure out what happened to the protagonist's mom. I'm not going to lie, the longer this goes on, the more I'm sure she's not alive. But also, there's the mystery of what's happening to the other Marrow. They're all disappearing. The people of the local town have secrets, and they have, you know, they've been watching our protagonist Alba a little bit, and they have suspicions about him. Like, there's still mysteries to be had, but I'm just hoping that even if there's less of a horror edge to the actual, like, relationship between the characters, that we get it back in other ways, because I've been loving the vibes. I don't particularly like it when a monster romance tries too hard to be normal. You know, those monster romances where it's like, aha, this accountant is a minotaur, and here's an office romance. Like, I get it, that's its own subgenre that a lot of people like, but like, I go into monster romances for the monstrous aspect, for the I am not in the real world aspect. And this book so far has had it in spades. And I'm super hoping we don't lose it, because I would love to stay in at least some semblance of that vibes. There have been no steamy scenes yet, but well, I guess it is still fairly early. I'm used to some other monster romances where it's really early on that you get those, like the Shades of Sin series by Colette Rhodes. She wastes no time to get stuff steamy. But regardless, I'm enjoying it so far. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of other time to read tonight because the way I want to read this book, because I'm judging it, right? I'm scoring it. I only want to be reading it when I am in full paying attention mode, when I am not too tired, when I can like sit and focus well, because I don't want to screw up the score I give. So that means that, you know, I'm not going to be taking it to read in bed tonight, for example. So I'm going to be slow working my way through it, but it's fine. I've already read a lot this month, and if this goes into February, again, it's fine. You don't have to read all 5 books for the Indie Ink Awards until September. So that being said, I do hope I get to like read a little bit more just because it's so good. Okay, so like here's the thing. It is the next day. I had intended to read another 50 pages, but then I got an idea for a blog post, and so I had to sit down, write the entire thing, edit it, and post it because my brain didn't want to stop. But I can't be too mad because it's already performing really well. Link in the description, of course, if you want to check it out. It is all about how the reading community is not fully prepared to divest from Amazon yet, why that is, and what we need to do to get there. And I have already gotten reply guys in my post on Blue Sky who have clearly only read the title and not the actual article, telling me why I'm wrong. So you know I've made it. But that also means that I'm already getting tired and don't have a 50 pages session within me. I will still be reading, but I will be doing my lazy read in bed while tired book, which is still Monster Romance. It's the last book in the Duskwalker series by Opal Rain. But I have some time tomorrow after work, and I have basically all of Saturday off. We don't have anything going on and no work. So I will try to really push through on Saturday to get this done. I would like to get both this one and Celestially Yours and give an overview of how the scoring works in this vlog before it's done. But for right now, I will continue to watch my stats go up and watch reply guys get mad at me. Fun fact about me, I am a veiling pagan, if it hasn't caught on yet that you have not seen the top of my skull in any of these clips. And when I don't want to try to find a new kerchief after washing my hair, because I don't want the hair oils from the old kerchief to go back on, I use the Eccentric Wizard housecoat that I crocheted. And speaking of crochet, I was actually working on a little something while I was reading another 79 pages of A Bone in His Teeth. This is my book cover blanket. Every time I finish a book, I add another 2 rows to this, corresponding with the colors on the cover, or at least the 2 most prominent ones. And yes, I have seen people do this in granny square fashion. I read too much to do granny squares. As we can see, I have already had a lot of experience sewing squares together. It's very tedious. I'd rather just do it temperature blanket style. But regardless, let's talk about the book. I was correct in that we are starting to see more like warm, fuzzy feelings between our protagonists. So like the horror edge between them specifically is a little bit gone, but there is still some other stuff. There was still another scene with someone else singing from the woods. Like there was that kind of, mysteries. We're moving forward, and he's been searching for his mother and finding reason to believe her name was erased from the town records. Like the mysteries, good, delicious mysteries are increasing. But what jumped out to me the most was a trope I'd never considered before, and that is arranged mating. So if you've never done anything with paranormal romance, there's a very, very common concept where once 2 people or a group of people are like formally mated together, there are supernatural mechanics built into the bond. It's very, very common with shifter romances specifically, but it tends to be specifically a either lust or love thing where it's like, oh, we're being pushed into this by feelings. But this book has arranged mating where it's like, okay, the mating system of Marrow have these mechanical benefits. So let's enter into that for the mechanical benefits to further our investigation. It is arranged mating. I kind of love it. And I want to see more of it because there's so much to play with. Because it's like, okay, what mechanics could you build into a mating bond that two different characters would want to make such a serious decision to go through with? And I'm not even sure Alba is completely aware of what he just signed up for. But the sex scene was great. I will give it that. It did take place like in the water against the rocks like you'd want it to. Because I was a little bit, I'm like, I really don't want the sex scene to be happening with our siren friend in his human form, like in a bed, right? That's like not why I read monster romance, but it was properly monstery. Multiple dicks, clear Ice Planet Barbarian style, you know. I loved the intensity of it. There are warnings for certain aspects of the sex scenes. I don't know if it was for this scene specifically, because while it was intense, it wasn't necessarily more intense that I've seen from other monster romances. So I don't know if it was a warning for people just getting into the kind of books that this is, or if there's going to be an even more intense scene later on. But regardless, I've also been looking at who's the morally gray character, because one of the awards this book is up for is Best Moral Gray Character. And at first I thought it might be Alba, but even then, a lot of the bad stuff Alba has done has been so clearly for self-preservation. But no, after some reveals through some delightful dark conversations, we can now be certain that it is this, I don't know how to say this siren's name, Eradnus? Siren Dude is our morally gray character. So he is the one that I will be rating when I give that score, and we'll talk about it again later. But again, I love that new concept so much. I'm a big fan of the fated mates trope as a whole, and just the idea of arranged mates. I'm getting that I want to write something feeling when I should be editing literally anything else. But regardless, I need to read some more and then I'll come back to you. Wait. No, it would be mating of convenience. There we go. Another day, another update. I have gotten a little further into the book and we have finally uncovered what happened to the Marrow. Still don't know what happened to Alba's mother yet, but I'm willing to bet it's connected. Regardless, we also got some lore drops about the relationship between the Marrow and the humans of the harbor prior to the Marrow's disappearance. We also have gotten a bit furthering of the relationship between our Wiki and his siren fuck buddy. Still can't say the siren's name. It's a star, so it's all fancy and Latin and shit. But regardless, I do like how weirdly dorky they're becoming with each other and adorable. Like that whole they're trying to be grumpy, but they're so clearly developing feelings type beat. I do enjoy that a lot. I also did like the lore between the humans and the Marrow and how they used to interact before the disappearance. But as far as the mystery of the disappearance goes, it was kind of underwhelming. Now, I never hold it against a book that I can uncover the mystery before it's revealed in the plot. I am of the mindset that if a mystery is well written, you should be able to figure it out before the narrative reveals it. If there's a logic to it, a motivation, hints and clues, you should be able to figure it out. But usually when I'm trying to figure out a mystery, and admittedly I can get a little bit obsessive with it, I have to make at least a couple different guesses, and those guesses have to change as new clues are introduced. I never had to do that with this mystery. What I guessed instantly at the first base, sure, let's go with that analogy, was what was right. I was never challenged in that. There was never any redirects, no red herrings, no nothing. I knew what had happened to the Marrow, who was leading the conspiracy, why they were doing it, like all from the get-go. And the thing is, right before I stopped reading for this last round, they had the big moment, right? A big plot point had happened, vague spoilers, and then the leader of the conspiracy steps forward and the name gets dropped. And this is very clearly supposed to be a it's you moment. But like, the problem with the setup of this mystery is there's next to no side characters in the town. Alba spends most of his time in Moon Harbor in the lighthouse island, hanging out with his fuck buddy. And then when he does go into town, most of the other townspeople are just NPCs that only exist to give little lore drops about mermaids. And that's it. There's very few people that get any characterization beyond that, and most of them don't even get names. So, like, when it came time for the conspiracy theory leader to be revealed, there was literally no one else it could have been. So, like, I do wish that had been, like, broadened out, like, you know, actually have a pool of suspects instead of a singular character. And also there were some elements of stumbling across the reveals. Like, Alba did do some research into the disappearance of his mother, but he outright stumbled into the next clue for the marrow, and they were flat out, you know, told, come back to the new moon to see what will happen, what has been happening. And of course, I knew exactly what had been happening the minute they walked in there. Still a tough scene to read through, but like, I'd known it ahead of time. And so there was never a moment of like catching my breath, like, and I wish it had been either a little bit harder for them to figure out or a little bit harder for me to figure out, because it did feel like the obvious choice in everything. Regardless, I am still invested in the mystery of Alba's mother and what happened to her. And so I think I'm probably just going to do a read through to the end. I only have a little over 100 pages left, and it is still late afternoon on Saturday. I got plenty of time to get it done today. I'm just hoping that we get a little bit more juicy mystery at the end that has a little bit more of a dramatic reveal. I would like to actually be wrong this time, to be frank. Je suis fini. I have finished A Bone in His Teeth by Kellen Graves. And you know how I said earlier that, like, oh, the Marrow siren fuck buddy must be the morally gray character? That was a lie. That was wrong. The shit Alba pulls at the very end of this book during the climactic scene. No, he the morally gray character. If he was a woman, it would have been a good for her ending, you know? But it was kind of funny because, you know that thing in stories where the characters start talking about how, oh, when this is all over, we're going to go do the fun thing. Oh, it's almost over now. And then you look at the time left in the story and you're like, oh, fuck. They do it twice. Twice they're like, oh, tomorrow, day after, we're so close. We're almost to freedom. And I'm like, stop teasing the plot gods. But yeah, a bunch of stuff goes down. Gigantic climactic scene. It is good for her vibes. Although I don't know if good for him is like really a thing. But regardless, I did really enjoy my time. I really enjoyed how intense it got. I love the concept of the sea as this mystical, chaotic, what do they call it? A cruel but not merciless entity. It was very vibes. It was very vibesy, very creepy and disturbing at points. Again, even as the relationship between the two became a lot more warm and fuzzy, we still had plenty of other horror elements in play. There was, again, a character reveal of, oh, it's that character. But again, we didn't have enough characters to choose from. You kind of knew what was coming, but it was still dramatic and big and bloody and fiery and wavy, floody. I don't know. Regardless, really enjoyed it. But now we got to talk about scoring. Hi, so it's the next day. I could give you all the excuses for why I forgot to film last night, but let's just move on to the scoring. So I want to reiterate that the public star ratings that judges give these books are in no way connected to their actual scores for the Indie Ink Awards. The scoring system for the awards is a lot more complicated than a single 1 to 5 number. It's actually a lot of 1 to 5 numbers and some 1 to 10, but let's jump into it. So there are certain craft scores that will each get their own 1 to 5 rating. You rate on spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Like 1 or 2 typos isn't going to do much, but like if it's regularly reoccurring enough to affect your enjoyment, that would be a thing. Opening hook, enjoyability, plot and pacing, characterization, the drama, conflict, and or impact, inclusivity, and originality. Each of those concepts gets its own 1 to 5 rating. On top of that, each award that a book is up for will get its own 1 to 10 rating. Now, when you reserve a copy as a judge, you are going to announce or at least say, these are the awards I am judging for. And it is preferred / a rule that you not score a book if it is up for an award based on a community you are not a part of. So A Bone in His Teeth is up for trans and non-binary rep. I will not be scoring for that. That means that a copy is going to go back into the pool for judges to reserve specifically for trans and non-binary representation. And if the other judges that currently have a reserve copy or get a reserve copy later also don't score for that book, there will be up to 3 copies back in the pool for trans and non-binary judges to pick up. So every award will have 3 judges scoring for it, but it may mix and match depending on what each judge can score for. Now, I have not scored this yet. I have been sitting on it for a hot minute because once you score, that's it. You can't change it. So I really want to make sure I've got it. But while I'm sitting on that, I do think we need to start Celestially Yours. Oh, almost forgot. There's also a score that originally confused me because it was, how much do you want to continue the book? And I'm sitting there like, I finished it. But the idea was, how compelled did you feel to keep reading? Which admittedly is a little bit tricky when you're vlogging because it's like, okay, how much do I want to keep reading the book? And how much do I want to have a reason to keep talking at the camera? Because talking at a camera is fun, damn it. So I was a little anxious when I first looked at the art copy of Celestially Yours because it mentioned the book Travelers, the series that the author had previously published and then unpublished. And I had read the first book and I was like, oh crap, if this is a rewrite, I don't know that I can judge it. But no, it's just like inspired and grew out of that series. And honestly, it's been 3.5 years. I don't really remember any of it, at least not as well as I remember Mazarin Blues, and Mazarin Blues is definitely closer to this one in plot and setting than Travelers was, because Travelers was a cozy post-apocalypse. But regardless, the last book I read from this author, Mazarin Blues, it was kind of a unique reading experience because I both enjoyed it and yet didn't want to continue the series. Which is kind of strange. Usually if you enjoyed the first book, you want to keep going. But there was something so final about the ending that I'm like, I don't know that I need to reopen that door. That door feels nice and closed. I think I'm good. So I double checked and I believe this book is a standalone, which I think I would prefer because the last time I read from this author was a very good closed door. I am on the fence about how I feel. Fun fact, I did in fact enter in the scores for A Bone in His Teeth, and that freed me up to get another reserve copy, and I got an audiobook because audiobooks are expensive, and if I can get one for free, I'm not going to say no. Regardless, though, it is kind of nerve-wracking because the way audiobooks work with judges is they wait until you reserve it and then ask for the code, and then they turn to the author and ask the author for an ARC code, which I'm assuming is to Audible. But that also means the author knows that someone is going to be reviewing it, that it's been picked up. And so I'm like, crap, am I causing an author to be anxious right now? And that's making me anxious. But I do know that the narrator of the book is one that I've listened to before, and I love the voice. But we'll talk about that in a different vlog. This one is long enough. So let's talk about the first 50-ish or so pages of Celestially Yours. The story did start in a slightly strange place that I wasn't expecting, because I was like, oh, we're gonna start when he died or when he came back, that kind of thing. But it actually starts with our protagonist, Sasha, in a support group. It is really funny because the opening line is dying had given him indigestion or something to that effect. I had to take that into consideration because opening hook is something I have to score for. But regardless, I love the solar punk vibes. Very eco-friendly, queer norm, this futuristic world. And there is still some bad faith actors. You discover through actually Metatron's point of view, you actually get to see the AI, which is fun, that currently no one can be revived because the company is being held up in a lawsuit. A trans woman entered into the program and during her time in limbo asked to come out in the appropriate body for herself, and her conservative family hated it and so are trying to sue the company. And while they're being sued, no other resurrections can happen, which is why Metatron had the time to fall in love with this one soul. Usually, he wouldn't have that much time. He'd only have like a couple weeks before they would put back in their body, but because it's been so prolonged, now he and Rodrigo are having a vibe, are having a moment. And he's not come into like visual world. What am I saying? He's not coming to the world in a visual way yet. Like Sasha isn't seeing him, but he's feeling Metatron's emotions. He can feel like in the pit of his stomach and when Metatron's anxious and what Metatron is thinking about Rodrigo. He knows Rodrigo's name. And so he's like, oh my God, I gotta get these feelings to stop. So that's why he goes back to the company essentially to try to get a way to contact Metatron directly to do something about it. The company does seem pretty cool. I'm willing to bet, unless there's like a sudden plot twist that the company is secretly evil, I'm willing to bet that it's going to turn into, oh, he finds his place there. It's not just to get into Metatron, to get Metatron to leave him alone or whatever. But so far, it is reading a lot faster. I was afraid that the dense text would be a little iffy, but it is a very smooth writing style. I appreciate that. I got scared when I saw the name of the protagonist from the Travelers series. I'm like, oh crap. And I went to reread the author's note to be like, can I read this book? And no, this is essentially like an AU version. So it's not the same plot at all. And like I said, they're entirely different genres. This is solar punk. That was cozy post-apocalypse. So we're good on that front. It is going to be not a pretty quick read. Like obviously I'm going to take my time, but faster than I was afraid of, which is great. I technically have a lot of time for all of these books. I found this out on the Discord server. Technically speaking, the reading portion of the contest technically hasn't opened yet. They were ahead of schedule. They opened to judges before they originally planned to. So the fact that I've already finished a book puts me way ahead of where anyone intended to be by this point. But I still want to finish another one before the end of the month because I'm still caught up in that damn month-to-month TBR mindset. I will shake myself out of it eventually. But for now, I'll come back to you when I've read a little bit more. Another day, another update. I have read another 70 pages of Celestially Yours. It reads so smooth. Like it's a vibe. And it is definitely solar punk. Like at one point, Sasha climbs up to the roof to have a phone call, as you do. And like the roof is also covered in vegetation. But the vibe is so different from A Bone in His Teeth, like night and day, because like the vibes of A Bone in His Teeth were like dark, twisted, gnashing, and bones, obviously. But this one, it's much more hopeful and focused on healing and recovering and community. Like the protagonist's ex-wife still cares about him. They only got a divorce because he had this big addiction to these futuristic drugs that are all named after emojis, which... like, I'm trying to take it seriously. It's a drug addiction, but also they're all named after emojis. I'm trying. But, like, even that, like, the drug addiction is emoji-based. Like, that's how lighthearted this is. There's a little bit of tension. One of the souls trapped in limbo is not nice. Not a nice guy. Like serial killer vibes. And so there's the worry of what happens if he comes back. And there's the... court case, and if that gets settled in the favor of the people suing, then those souls could all be deleted, and you've been spending time in limbo with Metatron learning about the other souls that could be deleted if that happens. So there is like meant to be some tension, but the overall vibes are just so warm and fuzzy that it's almost hard to remember that tension is there. I do still have a little under 70 pages left. So I'll probably finish it tomorrow, which is great because I really got to get this vlog up. It's been a while and I already have other vlogs I want to start. I don't know what's come over me. I never used to like vlogging, like daily reading vlogging before. Don't know what it is, but we're enjoying it. We're enjoying this. And in general, I am wondering if there's going to be a sudden like turn, because there was one little plot twist. I was like, ooh, that's the connection between those two characters. Like I knew there was some kind of thing, but there was some fun plot twists, but majority has just been sweet and warm and fuzzy and hopeful and a complete 180 from the last one, except in how gay it is. They're both very gay, but like, obviously I don't read the straight books. Come on. Anyway, I will come back to you when I have read a little bit more. The book heard me. The book heard that I didn't think there was a lot of tension, and it took offense. Because the last 50 pages went zoom and so much happened. And there was a late stage plot twist that turned everything on its head and a lot of dramatics and a big action sequence that like was not prepared for, but it had me gripped. It had me in its clutches. There was also a plot point very similar to what happened with Mazarin Blues with the AI. So I think that's just a character trope, a very, very niche character trope about AIs that the author really likes. And at this point, if I ever read of another one of their books having a similar setup with AI, I'm just going to assume the same thing will happen again. But regardless, I am really happy that I got this one done. I can score it. I'm having a lot better of an idea of what I'm going to score now that like I've actually gotten to see the scoring happen and know what the screen is going to look like when I go into it for this one. But I was really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the fact that I've gotten 2 of the Indie Ink Award books done, and I'm pretty sure we're still not technically open for reading yet. We're still ahead of schedule. That meaning that like we're not following the posted schedule that was put on like the social medias and the website and stuff for how this was going to work. Not that like I'm reading when I'm not supposed to, but it is a fun fact about me that the more the world stresses me out, the more I read. I might beat my 2020 goals this year. We'll find out. I really would like the world to slow down a little bit. This has been January, the Mondayest of all Januaries. But regardless, I'm going to go score this. I'm going to go pick a new one. And at some point, I will be coming back to you with another one of these. So if you've read these books, please let me know. If you're interested in these books or these authors, please let me know. What did you think of them? Obviously, someone had to nominate these things for the Indie Ink Awards. Are you reading any of the books for the Indie Ink Awards? My fellow judges, rise up. But regardless, I'm going to score so many books. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.